Apex Scion Prime was not built on peace. It was forged in arenas soaked in blood, victory, and humiliation. Across the stars, the Apex Scion tournaments were broadcast to billions, an endless parade of the strongest, fastest, most ruthless gladiators in the galaxy. Species of every kind came to test their might, and each year, the undefeated champion from the Apex species reigned supreme. The Vokran, whose exoskeletal armor and Neuralink reflexes crushed opponents before they saw it coming. Humans were a joke here. The so-called Deathworlders from a forgotten blue planet. Primitive, fragile, a novelty that faded fast once reality crushed their pride. The last human contender died 3 years ago, laughed out of the arena, and then obliterated. Since then, no one bothered entering from Earth. Until today. She arrived without ceremony. No escort, no entourage, just a pale gray uniform of a registered combatant. No weapons, no armor. She walked through the registry gates with her ID chip and a single silent nod. The officials barely glanced up. One of them sneered. Another Earthborn tourist. She waited in silence for hours, watching the tournament unfold. A Karkari blade dancer tore through 3 opponents with 12 cuts in under 10 seconds. A Trogaxian brute crushed the arena floor as he turned a rival's skull into powdered bone. The audience roared for each kill. Blood fed the dust. The champion's seat remained empty. When her name, Combatant 43129, Terra Origin, flashed on the slate, the arena paused. Silence rippled like shockwaves through the watchers. Not respect. Contempt. The announcer didn't hide the sarcasm. Let's welcome today's exotic flavor, straight from Earth. She stepped into the ring, barefoot. The arena's artificial sun cast a shadow behind her as she stood still, eyes closed. Her opponent was already waiting. Goran the Unbroken, a 12-year veteran of the Apex tournaments. 622 confirmed kills. Clad in obsidian armor, holding twin war axes etched to the marks of 1,000 battles. He laughed before attacking. No ceremony, no mercy. He was moving before the audience finished their jeer. His axes screamed through the air, and she hadn't moved. There was a sound like air breaking. And suddenly he was on the ground, flat, unmoving. The silence wasn't confusion. It was disbelief. The replays tried to explain. Ultra-high-speed captures showed her hand snap up just once. A strike to the temple at an angle so precise, it bypassed helmet resonance and neural damping. A kill that no one saw in real time. Officials rushed the field. Goran was breathing. Barely. His neural net was fried. Brain function near zero. Medics declared him incapacitated for life. For a split second, her eyes opened, cold, measured. She walked away. That clip, less than 3 seconds long, went viral within hours. Across planets, species, military archives. The title was the same on every feed. Human weapon? Within the Apex Scion War Council, her record was opened. 0 known combat history. No military background. No enhancements. Just a human, born on Earth, in a region with a Class 4 survival index. Mountains. Predators. Uninhabitable. She survived there alone until 19. Recruiters from mercenary guilds, intelligence syndicates, and private warlords sent messages. All unanswered. Her next match came too soon. A syndicate-backed brawler from Shulkar Prime. For limbs, double-jointed, acid-sheathed claws. A predator designed in labs. He attacked before the bell. She stood still. When he lunged, she moved half a step. He crashed into the sand. Another kill. Instant. Non-lethal but decisive. The medics carried him away with fractured limbs and no memory. By her 4th match, the betting lines collapsed. Casinos refused to take wagers. Not because she always won. Because she never tried. No posturing. No roar of dominance. Just stillness, and then something broke. Bone armor, ego. Whispers turned to theories. Some said she was a psychic. Others said she used forbidden tech. But scans showed nothing. The Deathworlder girl, as the media dubbed her, was statistically average on paper. She had no team, no trainer, No translator. She never spoke. Not a single recorded word. She simply arrived, fought, and left. Alone, the champion returned from off-world early. Volkar the Vokran, 11 feet tall, carapace forged from neutron-impacted alloys bonded to flesh. Reflexes synced predictive AI. Known for severing limbs mid-sentence. He requested to face her early, not in the finals. Now, the War Council deliberated. They refused. She hadn't earned it yet. Not officially. He didn't wait. He descended into the training barracks where she meditated between matches. Cameras lost visual. Audio cut out. When it resumed, he was gone, left on his own accord. Silent, without comment. The tournament arc changed. Combatants withdrew from facing her. Others forfeited. One slit his own palm and declared unfit. No one wanted to face the girl from Earth. When the semifinals arrived, she stood in the ring alone. Her opponent didn't show. And then it was time. The championship match. The audience had doubled. Triple layers of defense fields surrounded the ring. Medical teams stood on standby. Drones hovered above. She entered first. Still, silent. Then came Volkar. The crowd erupted. He raised his axes, the same ones used to disembowel an entire platoon of synthetic troopers in the Dexter Revolt. Every muscle in his frame flexed with killing intent. She didn't blink. He charged, axes forward, feet shaking the arena with each step, tactical systems tracking, predictive protocols adapting. And then she moved. Not fast, not dramatic. A single twist, a single touch, a motion so brief it barely registered. The sound that followed was unnatural, a groan of metal, a scream of something ancient giving way. Volkar dropped, unconscious, alive, but broken. The Deathworlder girl turned her back and walked away. No words, no gestures, no claim to the title. She disappeared from the arena records 2 days later. The final message etched into the champion's neural logs, later decrypted, read, "I saw nothing, but I felt the end." Across the galaxy, recruitment into human combat schools surged. Earth was no longer seen as a primitive backwater. It became something else entirely. A warning, a symbol of silent terror. Where humans walked still, others fell, and none could explain how. The only truth left was this. The Deathworlder girl stood still and brought the galaxy to its knees. There was a hush across the arena. Silence, not from fear, but from confusion. The girl from the Deathworld hadn't moved, not when the Apex champion circled her, not when the sand shifted beneath her boots, not when the air hummed with the anticipation of violence. She stood, unmoving, eyes locked forward, her breathing slow and deliberate. The Apex champion launched forward, 8 feet of genetically engineered terror. Muscle, speed, reflexes augmented to the peak of post-evolutionary science. His first strike was meant to maim. The follow-up would have been lethal, but the first never landed. A blur of motion, so fast that the crowd missed it. One shift of her weight, one angle adjustment of her hips and shoulder, and the champion lay crumpled, limbs twisted unnaturally, eyes wide in disbelief. One move, that's all it took. There were no cheers, just a stunned, cold silence. Apex Ion Prime had never seen anything like it. She didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She simply walked away, leaving her opponent breathing but broken. The footage went viral within an hour. Across the outer systems, millions debated what they had seen. Was it a trick, a fluke, or something far more terrifying? The leading theory from military analysts was biomechanics, an optimal kill vector executed without hesitation. But there was no equipment on her, no enhancement, no implants. She had tested clean. She was Deathworld born, and that alone explained too much for comfort. The arena organizers scrambled. The champion she had defeated had gone undefeated for 11 cycles. The syndicate had placed enormous bets on his win. Now there were questions. Threats, accusations of sabotage, but the footage was clear, and so were the scans. No tampering, no drugs, just one movement, technically flawless, brutally efficient. The next match was arranged within hours. They brought in a mercenary brute from the fringe worlds, a cybernetic nightmare known for disabling his enemies within seconds. Implanted weapons, reinforced joints, spine-linked reflex nodes. Not just a warrior, he was a walking armory. He didn't last 2 moves. This time, she moved first. A shift in balance, a decoy feint that baited his mechanical arm high. Then a downward elbow strike that shattered his chest plate. He didn't even scream. The crowd did. The arena thundered with disbelief. It wasn't a fluke. The commentators stopped trying to explain. The analysis feeds were overwhelmed. Every known fighting algorithm failed to decode her technique. She wasn't just faster. She was thinking in ways others couldn't follow. Timing, distance, angles. It was as though she wasn't reacting, but predicting. Reading her opponents like they were scripted. The arena was now hers. But she didn't claim it. She didn't raise her fists. She simply stood over her fallen opponent, nodded once, and walked away. The syndicate met in private. She was becoming a problem, not because she was dangerous, but because she was rewriting the balance of fear. Fear was valuable. It kept people in line. A human, an unmodified, unaffiliated, untrained girl, was shattering the illusion of apex superiority. If she could win, what else could humanity do? They summoned an elite, a gladiator bred from birth to kill, trained on 37 worlds, victor of over 200 engagements. He was their trump card, the peak of what Apex Scion called perfection. Before the match, he watched her in silence from the shadows. She didn't pace. She didn't breathe heavy. She simply sat with her hands on her knees, waiting. The match was delayed due to system diagnostics. A dozen security sweeps were conducted. They found nothing. Still, every safeguard was in place. The arena was locked down. The press was barred. Only the elite syndicate members watched in person. The rest viewed remotely. He entered, towering, armored, armed. She entered, unarmed, unfazed. The buzzer sounded. She let him swing first. 3 strikes, fast and powerful. She dodged each by millimeters. Not wasted energy. Not fear. Just efficiency. Then she closed the distance. 1 strike. An open palm to his sternum. His armor crumpled like foil. He staggered. The crowd, watching remotely, went wild. Then came the 2nd strike. His knee snapped sideways. His 3rd fall was a roll into the sand, body twitching from neurological disruption. All without a single blow drawn in anger. Medical units rushed in. They had never needed them before. The syndicate demanded to know who trained her. Earth's response was silence. Then laughter. They hadn't trained her. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't special. She was a refugee from a failed colony, born on a Deathworld humans didn't even name anymore. Her family had died in a fungal storm. She grew up scavenging, fighting feral predators, learning to move in silence, learning to kill when necessary, and only when necessary. That's what terrified them most. She didn't fight to win. She fought because survival demanded it. She had no rage, no ego, no bloodlust. She simply didn't want to die. And that meant she fought with pure, brutal finality. They upped the stakes, introduced dual opponents, gave them terrain advantages. One had invisibility dampeners. The other flew. She waited when they attacked. She used the flying one's movement to angle the invisible one's dust displacement. In the time it took to blink, she launched upward, grabbed the flyer's wing, flung it into the shimmer where the invisible enemy had been. 2 broken bodies hit the ground. No wasted movement. They tried chemical interference, psychological tactics. None worked. She had lived through worse. Hunger, bone cold, creatures that didn't fear light. The arena tried branding her. The ghost, the shadow blade. None stuck. She didn't respond to names. She didn't care, but off-world. The name stuck anyway, Deathworlder. And now others feared Earth again. Allies asked for training. Enemies demanded answers. Earth denied all requests. Their only statement, she is not the exception, she is the result. The syndicate made one last desperate move. They activated Protocol X, a warrior grown in a vat, decades of mental conditioning, AI-augmented foresight, and quantum reaction implants. This wasn't a fighter. It was a god machine. The arena was empty for this match. It was deemed too dangerous for public viewing. Drones recorded. The AI model monitored every twitch of her muscles, calculating paths of probability before she moved. The perfect weapon. She bowed her head before the match began. Then she sprinted. The god machine reacted. Dozens of simulations processed per millisecond. It launched its fastest, most adaptive combo strike. She were the upgrade. What others considered elite, they called childhood. Across the stars, World began rethinking alliances. Because if one untrained girl from a forgotten colony could bring down the galaxy's greatest warriors, what would happen if Earth ever truly got angry? And somewhere on a quiet transport out of Apex Ion space, she sat in silence, eyes closed, leaning against the hull. The war was over before it began. No planets destroyed. No cities burned. Just one girl in an arena, showing the galaxy what Deathworlders truly were. The transport ship crossed into unregulated space. The girl sat alone in the cargo hold, knees drawn to her chest. She wasn't fleeing. She had simply walked away, left the arena. No words, no destination, just movement. Survival, always. Apex Ion had nothing left to prove. The galaxy, though, refused arrest. Every major species dispatched envoys to Earth. Not in hostility, but caution. The videos were impossible to suppress. Even the Syndicate's efforts to wipe the records failed. Black market feeds, pirate archives, military-grade recon, all showed the same. One unaugmented human disabling monsters of war with deliberate ease. And the terrifying part? She was average. That single fact cracked empires. In response, Earth gave no warnings. No threats. Only a whisper spread in the underground circuits. She's not one of a kind. She's just early. Recruiters now haunted the outer rims, desperate to find humans. Pirates stopped abducting them. Slavers let them go. The fear wasn't what humans did. It was in what they didn't need to do. No gear. No weapons. Just purpose. Military boards across dozens of systems reevaluated their combat doctrines. Tactical AI simulations that once disregarded human unpredictability now placed them as high-risk variables. The loss of the God Machine had proven a point no dataset could deny. Humans broke rules just by existing. On a barren moon 3 sectors from Apex Ion, a private military contractor set up a black site to test human potential. They captured 10 humans, civilians from isolated colonies, and dropped them into a survival zone meant to replicate Deathworld conditions. They didn't just survive. They built shelters, coordinated defenses, mapped the region. And when the mercs dropped in apex predators to escalate conditions, the humans turned those predators into guard animals. Not by force, by manipulation. Behavioral prediction, baiting tactics, reward conditioning. No implants. No directives. Just human minds, honed by pressure. The footage was never released. The facility was shut down. All personnel were reassigned. The humans simply walked out when the gates failed. Back aboard the freighter, the girl remained quiet. Crew avoided her. They can say why. She didn't threaten. She didn't even speak. But something primal tickled their instincts. Predators recognize predators. And she wasn't hunting, but she could. A bounty was placed on her. Quietly, discreetly. The Syndicate needed deniability. 700,000 credits to anyone who could confirm her termination. Mercenaries, assassins, and hunters took the offer. The first found her near a refueling station. He didn't even unsling his rifle before his throat snapped. The second never got within range. Her trail went cold. The third tried poison the airlock. She didn't enter that day. Just stared through the window at him until he fled. Then came a group, 12 war-hardened killers. No chatter, no overconfidence. They planned every angle. Watched for days. Laid traps. She walked into the trap, sat down in the center, and waited. They died in less than 2 minutes. She didn't stay to watch them bleed. At this point, Governments began whispering the unthinkable. Could she be captured? Studied? Cloned? Earth answered with silence. Again, but from Earth's orbit, something changed. A new signal. Not a warning. A broadcast. They played back her arena matches. Then paused. Then followed it with a line of text in Galactic Standard. You saw one. That's enough. The message didn't end there. It showed a scan of her, then overlaid it with biometrics from children in similar colonies, then adults, then soldiers, then athletes, then prisoners. Hundreds, thousands. Patterns emerged. Reflexes, neuroresponse rates, density of muscle fibers, pain tolerance. They weren't anomalies. They were consistent. Deathworlders weren't evolving. They had evolved, not through lab design, not through selective breeding, through consequence. Every generation born on Earth was forged by extinction-level events, gravity that broke bones, ecosystems that hunted back, diseases that outpaced vaccines, coal that shattered metal, heat that melted stone. The girl wasn't Earth's weapon. She was Earth's signature, and now the galaxy had read it. A fleet moved into soul space, not to invade, not to negotiate, to observe. Earth allowed them to enter orbit, but warned them, don't land. They complied, but from orbit they scanned. Cities were old but robust. Populations were not docile. Every civilian moved like a potential combatant. Muscle wear, footfall distribution, situational awareness. These were not prey creatures. Earth wasn't peaceful. It was patient. The girl landed back on Earth 3 weeks later. No escort, no parade, just footsteps on cracked soil. A welcome by no one, but watched by all. She went to the mountains, not to hide, but to disappear from eyes. Fame was never her aim. Survival was. But even there, peace evaded her. Because now, humans across the colonies were awakening, inspired, shaken, changed, not by pride, but by reflection. If she could do that, what else had they been holding back? Untrained humans entered arenas. Some lost, but many won. Others began pushing into forbidden zones of alien space, reclaiming ruins, mapping horrors, settling worlds no species dared touch. And still, no war had been declared. The syndicate, battered and humiliated, began fragmenting. Half its leadership vanished. Assassinations, internal coups, bankruptcy. The Deathworlder girl had done more to destabilize the galaxy than any invasion, and she had never declared war. Now, galactic youth idolized her. They didn't want power. They wanted strength without cruelty. Her silence had become their language. Her restraint worshipped. Academies opened with Earth instructors. Combat philosophies once deemed too primal were now standard. But nothing could replicate instinct earned by survival. They tried. They failed. Because no simulation could teach you what it felt like to starve. To run barefoot through razor grass. To sleep with one eye open because the wind carried howls. To bury family before your first meal. That was what made her different. That was what made Earth different. The Deathworlder girl didn't rise to power. She walked away from it. And that, more than anything, taught the galaxy its final lesson. Humanity didn't seek control. It didn't demand worship. It didn't offer dominance. It existed, and that was enough to shake empires.